"Don't you dare argue with my wife in her house." Tyler shouted at me, his voice sharper and angrier than I'd ever heard before. The thing was, we were standing in my house. The same house I'd built with my own hands, brick by brick over 30 long years of hard work. If you're listening to this, please like the video, subscribe, and drop a comment about where you're tuning in from. I froze right there in my own kitchen, stunned as if someone had just slapped me. My own son, the boy I'd raised, fed, and loved, was kicking me out of my own home just to defend a woman he'd only known for 2 years. Olivia stood beside him with her arms crossed, a smug little smile on her face, watching as my Tyler humiliated me right in front of her. And to think it all started over something so small. She had moved my garden plants without even asking. When I told her politely to please not touch my things without letting me know first, she snapped that it was her house now too. I tried to explain that I'd cared for those plants for 15 years, but before I could even finish, Tyler exploded, like I'd just insulted his wife. "My name's Margaret Dawson. I'm 69 years old, and that morning, I realized I didn't recognize my own son anymore. The same little boy whose diapers I'd changed, who refused to eat unless I spoon-fed him until he was 4, who I carried through long nights when he had a fever, now looked at me like I was a stranger. I was born in a small southern town where mothers were honored until their last breath, where sons took off their hats when talking to their parents and never raised their voices. But there I was, standing in a big city kitchen, watching my own son speak to me with anger in his eyes, all because of a woman who didn't even know my story. When I was 22, I came to this city with my husband, David, may he rest in peace, and a baby in my arms. We had nothing but 2 old suitcases and the hope of building a better life for our son. David worked construction from 5 in the morning until late at night, while I washed clothes for other people at a laundromat. I still remember the day we bought this little piece of land. It was just a rocky lot covered in weeds, but it cost only $3,000. David looked at me and said, "Margaret, we're going to build our home right here." I believed him, even though back then it felt impossible. For the first 5 years, we lived in a tiny tin shack while saving for materials. I baked pies in the mornings, cleaned houses in the afternoons, and at night I sewed red and green dresses for the ladies over in the nice part of town. Every dollar I made went into a coffee can I kept hidden under the mattress. Tyler was still little when my second son, Daniel, was born. With 2 kids to raise, the money was never enough, but I kept pushing forward. I woke up at 4 in the morning to bake, took the boys to school, worked all day, came home to cook, and stayed up sewing until after midnight. When David died in a construction accident, Tyler was 15 and Daniel just 12. I was left alone, 2 teenage boys, a half-finished house, and a mountain of debt. But giving up never even crossed my mind. I worked harder than I ever thought possible, selling food near the factory gates, washing clothes at dawn, babysitting on weekends, anything to make sure my boys never felt their father's absence. Anything so they could go to school and have the future I never did. Tyler was always my pride and joy. Smart, respectful, and hardworking. When he told me he wanted to become an engineer, I sold my sewing machine for $1,000 to pay for his tuition. It was my only tool for work, but I didn't hesitate. His education meant everything. For 5 long years, I stayed up late ironing other people's clothes to cover his expenses. My hands cracked, my back ached, but seeing him study made it all worth it. The day Tyler graduated, I cried tears of pure joy. My son was an engineer. My sacrifices had paid off. Daniel did well too. He became a computer technician and now works at a big company earning good money. He visits me often, brings flowers, always asks how I'm doing. But Tyler, he changed completely after he met Olivia. They met at a work event 2 years ago. She was 35, divorced, no kids, always dressed perfectly in red dresses and high heels. From the moment he brought her home, something in the air just felt off. It's not that I didn't want Tyler to get married. I'd always dreamed of seeing him happy with a good woman. But Olivia looked around my home like it was too small, too old, too simple for her. Her eyes went over my furniture with that cold, judgmental look. Like everything I'd worked so hard for meant nothing. At first it was little things. She'd make comments about the food, too spicy, too watery, not how we cook it at my place. Tyler always defended her, saying I was being too sensitive, that she was only trying to help. One evening they came over and told me they were getting married. I smiled and congratulated them, even though something deep inside me felt uneasy. Tyler was my companion, the last one still living with me after Daniel moved out. But I swallowed my fears and gave them my blessing. I even gave them the $3,000 I'd been saving for emergencies, money I'd set aside in case I ever got sick. I told myself his happiness mattered more. Olivia barely thanked me as if it were just expected. After the wedding, Tyler said they'd stay at my house for a while to save for their own place. I agreed happily, thinking maybe we could all feel like a family again. Maybe Olivia and I could grow close, help each other out around the house. But from the very first day, everything changed. She began moving things around without asking. She replaced my curtains with ones she liked, moved my family photos to make room for hers, and reorganized my kitchen so I couldn't even reach half my pans. When I asked Tyler to please talk to her about it, he said, "Mom, she lives here too. She deserves to feel comfortable." I just couldn't understand why my comfort didn't matter anymore. Then Olivia started bringing her friends over without telling me. They'd sit in my living room, drink coffee from my pantry, and whisper about me like I wasn't there, saying what? A shame it was that Tyler had to live in such an old place, that once they had kids they'd move somewhere newer, bigger, better. One afternoon, I overheard her on the phone saying how hard it was to live with her mother-in-law, how controlling I was, how I never let her do things her way. That cut deep. I had tried so hard to make her feel welcome. Tyler stopped asking how my day was. He stopped sitting with me to watch our favorite shows. He stopped helping me carry groceries. My sweet, thoughtful boy had turned into someone I barely recognized. All of Tyler's attention was on Olivia, on keeping her happy, on giving her everything she asked for. When I turned 69, they barely even said happy birthday. Before, Tyler would always bring me flowers and a little cake. But this time, Olivia told him it was easier to just take me out to some cheap restaurant so they wouldn't have to wash dishes. We ended up at a place that felt sad and smelled like grease, the kind where the food tastes like cardboard. The whole dinner cost barely $20 for all three of us. That night, sitting across from them, I started to feel invisible in my own family, in my own home. Olivia would turn on the TV to whatever show she wanted without even asking if I was watching something. She'd hog the bathroom every morning, using up all the hot water. The fridge was packed with her fancy food, all organic, imported, and expensive, leaving no room for my things. Whenever I tried to talk to Tyler about it, he'd sigh and say I was exaggerating. He'd remind me that Olivia worked hard, that she deserved respect. But I couldn't understand why respecting her meant forgetting to respect me. One night, I overheard them talking in their room. Olivia was saying that I was too controlling, that I didn't let them live in peace, that I always interfered. Tyler tried to calm her down, saying I was just used to living alone and needed time to adjust. But I wasn't meddling. I just wanted a little respect, to feel like my home was still mine, not a place where I was treated like an unwanted guest. Then Olivia started cooking just for herself and Tyler. She'd make 2 servings, and when I asked if there was more, she'd say there were leftovers in the fridge, if I was hungry. Leftovers, in my own kitchen where I'd cooked for this family for 50 years. On weekends they'd go out together, to the movies, to malls, to restaurants, and come home late laughing, telling inside jokes while I stayed alone watching TV. Before Olivia came along, Tyler and I used to spend Sundays together. We'd go to the market, buy flowers for the garden, have breakfast at a little food truck nearby. Eventually I couldn't take it anymore. One evening I sat them both down and told them we needed to set some boundaries, that I felt unwelcome in my own home. Olivia looked at me with that cold, polished stare of hers and said if I wasn't comfortable, maybe I should find another place to live. Tyler said nothing. He just sat there silent, staring at the floor like this had nothing to do with him. That silence hurt more than anything. My own son, the boy I raised alone, was letting his wife tell me to leave the home I had built with my own 2 hands. That night I cried quietly into my pillow so they wouldn't hear me. It had been years since I'd felt that kind of loneliness, heavy and suffocating. The days that followed were worse. Olivia seemed to realize Tyler wasn't going to defend me, so she started acting like she ran the place. She moved things around when I wasn't home, my kitchen, my living room, my garden, as if marking her territory. One Tuesday I came back from the market and saw she'd moved all my plants. Every single one of them. She'd shoved them into a dark corner that barely got any sun. When I asked why, she said she needed that space for a new patio set she wanted to buy. I tried to explain that those plants had been my babies for 15 years, that they needed sunlight, that each had its perfect spot. She rolled her eyes and said if I cared that much, maybe I should give them away to a neighbor. She spoke about them, about my plants, my little joys, as if they were junk. Tyler was sitting there reading his newspaper. He heard everything. He didn't say a word. I told Olivia calmly that I'd appreciate it if she didn't move my things without asking. That I'd organized this house a certain way for decades and I understood she lived here now too, but we could at least talk things through. That's when Tyler lowered his newspaper and looked at me, with a face I barely recognized. His eyes were full of anger, like I'd insulted him. He stood up, fists clenched, and shouted, "Don't you dare argue with my wife in her house. This is her house too. And if she wants to move those plants, she will. You don't get to forbid her anything." I froze. Her house. My son had just called my home her house. The same home I'd paid for with my sweat and tears. The walls David and I built together. And now suddenly I was the one who didn't belong. Olivia stood behind him, arms crossed, that smug little smirk on her face. She had done it. She had turned my son against me. She looked so satisfied, like she had finally won. I told Tyler to lower his voice, that I was his mother and I deserved respect, that we could talk calmly. But he just kept yelling, calling me a stubborn old woman who couldn't accept that things had changed. Olivia reached out and gently touched his arm, pretending to soothe him. "Don't get upset, honey," she said sweetly. "Your mom just comes from another time. It's hard for her to adjust." She talked about me like I wasn't even there, like I was some senile old lady throwing a tantrum. In that moment something inside me snapped. It wasn't just about the plants or Tyler's words. It was the months of little humiliations, the silent slights, the way they made me feel invisible. But I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stared at them, at both of them, in silence for what felt like forever. Then without a word I turned and walked to my room. That night as I lay in bed I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg for respect anymore. I wasn't going to tiptoe around them in my own home. And I certainly wasn't going to let Princess Olivia and her obedient husband make me feel like a burden. The next day was Friday, their date night. They always went out and came back past midnight. After they left I did something I never thought I'd do. I called a locksmith. The man who came was about 60, kind eyes, steady hands. I told him everything and he just nodded. He said he'd seen this kind of thing a lot lately, grown kids disrespecting their parents, pushing them out of their own homes. He changed every lock for $150. Then I called Daniel. When I told him what had happened, the yelling, the disrespect, he was furious. He said I'd done the right thing, that it was time I stood up for myself. He offered to let me stay at his place that night, but I said no. This was my house. The one I'd built, loved, and bled for. If someone had to leave, it wasn't going to be me. That Friday night I went to bed early, but I couldn't sleep. I knew the moment Tyler and Olivia came home and realized they couldn't get in, there would be a storm. But there was no turning back now. I had already made up my mind. I was taking back my dignity. Around 1 a.m. I heard Tyler's car pull into the driveway. Then came the sound of footsteps, the jingle of keys, and the click of metal against the lock. Silence. Then more fumbling. Olivia's irritated voice saying maybe he had the wrong key. Tyler tried every key on his keychain, his frustration growing with each one. Their voices got louder. Olivia asked what was wrong, why the door wouldn't open. Tyler said the locks must be jammed. I heard them walking around the house, trying the windows, knocking on the back door. Then came the banging on the front door, hard and desperate. "Mom, open the door. Mom, what's going on?" Tyler shouted. Olivia's voice cut in, sharp and angry, accusing me of being petty, of playing some childish revenge game. But I stayed in bed, completely silent, listening to them grow more desperate outside. For the first time in months I felt calm, in control. For once they were the ones begging and I was the one deciding what happened next. Tyler knocked for nearly half an hour. His voice softened, cracked. "Mom, please. We're cold. We just want to come in and sleep. We'll talk tomorrow, I promise. Please, Mom." Olivia had stopped shouting by then. I could hear her whispering to Tyler, probably telling him to call my phone or find a hotel. But I had already unplugged the landline and my cell was turned off. Eventually I heard the sound of their car starting up. They were gone. I stayed awake until dawn, a mix of sadness and relief swirling inside me. Sadness because it had come to this. Relief because finally I'd taken back my peace. When Saturday morning came I got up early like always. I made a pot of coffee, watered my plants, and cleaned the kitchen. The house was quiet. No tension, no complaints, no sighs of annoyance. For the first time in months I sat down and had breakfast in peace, right there in my own kitchen. Around 10 my cell phone rang. It was Tyler. His voice sounded tired, defeated. "Mom, we need to talk," he said. "We're staying at one of Olivia's friends' houses, but we need to come by to grab our clothes and a few things." I told him I was willing to talk, but only after he apologized. "You yelled at me in my own house, Tyler. You disrespected me. You want to fix this? Then start by apologizing." There was a long silence. Then he said, "Yes, I was wrong. We can talk about it. Just open the door, okay?" But I'd learned my lesson. Tyler's apologies didn't mean much anymore. As long as Olivia was pulling the strings, he'd always side with her. So I told him calmly, "If you want to talk, come alone. Olivia isn't welcome in my home until she apologizes to me too." He said that wasn't possible. "She's my wife, Mom. We go everywhere together. If you won't let her in, then neither of us will come." "Then that's your choice," I said and hung up. He called 5 more times that day. Each time his tone changed, less angry, more desperate. By the 3rd call his voice trembled. He said they needed their work clothes for Monday, that they had documents in their room, that it wasn't fair of me to do this. "I'm not punishing you," I told him. "I've just decided that only people who respect me can live in my home. If you want to stay here, you'll need to choose your wife or your mother. You can't have both under this roof anymore." On the 4th call, Tyler was begging. "Mom, please don't do this. We're family. Olivia's crying, she doesn't understand why you're so upset. Please just let us in so we can talk." That was a lie. I knew that woman hadn't shed a real tear in her life. But I could tell from his voice he was scared now. He finally realized I wasn't bluffing. By the 5th call late that evening, he changed tactics. His tone hardened. "If you don't open the door, I'll have to call the police. It's legal, Mom. We've been living there. We have rights." I didn't even raise my voice. "Go ahead and call Tyler. The deed's in my name. I pay every bill. I'm the only legal owner of this property. The police will tell you the same thing." He didn't answer. Just silence. He knew I was right. Sunday morning came, and for the first time all weekend my phone didn't ring. I thought maybe he'd finally understood, maybe he and Olivia were out looking for an apartment of their own. But around 11 I heard voices outside. I peeked through the curtains. Tyler was standing on the sidewalk, phone in hand, pacing. He looked awful, unshaven, exhausted, clothes wrinkled. Olivia wasn't there. She was probably waiting at her friend's house, expecting him to fix things. Tyler hung up the phone and walked slowly toward the front door. He knocked gently this time. Not like before. His voice was softer, almost like the little boy he used to be when he knew he'd done something wrong. "Mom, it's me. Can we talk? I came alone like you said. Please open the door." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to open it, to hug him, to forgive him, to pretend none of this ever happened. But I knew better. If I gave in now, Olivia would come back smug and victorious, and things would get even worse. I walked to the door but didn't open it. "Where's your wife?" I asked through the door. "She's at Chloe's place," he said. "Her friend. I came alone because I want to talk. Mom, we need to fix this." "Did you come to apologize for yelling at me in my own house?" I asked. There was a long pause. "His mom. I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I shouldn't have yelled at you. But you have to understand, Olivia's my wife now. I just need you two to get along." I opened the door. Tyler stood there looking worn and small, dark circles under his eyes, a 2-day beard, wearing the same clothes from Friday night. My heart ached for him, but I couldn't let that pity erase the truth. "Come in," I said softly. "Let's talk." He walked in and sat on the armchair that used to be his father's. He rubbed his face and sighed deeply. I sat across from him and waited. "Mom," he began, "I know things have been bad lately. Olivia says you treat her badly, that you don't accept her as family. Maybe I've been too defensive of her." He was already starting off wrong, still believing her version of the story, still seeing me as the problem. But I stayed quiet, waiting for him to finish. Then he added, "But Mom, changing the locks, that was too far. You can't just throw us out on the street like that. We're your children, your family," Tyler said, his voice trembling. "This is our house too." I stopped him right there. "No, Tyler. This is my house. I bought it. I paid for it. I built it with my own 2 hands. You're my son and you'll always be welcome here, but only under one condition. You respect me." "Mom, I do respect you," he said quickly. Really? I asked quietly. Is that what you call yelling at me in front of your wife? Is respect telling me I have no say about my own plans? Is it letting that woman talk to me like I'm some burden in my own home? Tyler lowered his head. I could see the guilt in his eyes. Deep down he knew I was right. But pride and his blind loyalty to Olivia wouldn't let him admit it. Mom, Olivia respects you too, he said finally. It's just, you two are different. He grew up in another kind of family. You need to give her time to adjust. Time? I asked, almost laughing. It's been 8 months, Tyler. How much time does she need to learn to say please and thank you? How long does it take to stop moving other people's things without asking? He straightened up, his voice firm now. Mom, this is how it is. Olivia is my wife. I love her and I'll always defend her. If you can't accept that, then we've got a serious problem. There it was, the truth clear as day. He hadn't come to apologize. He'd come to give me an ultimatum dressed up as a conversation. Either I accepted Olivia and all her disrespect or I lost my son completely. I sat there for a moment thinking of everything I had sacrificed for this boy, all the years I worked double shifts to pay for his education, the sleepless nights when he was sick, the thousands of dollars I spent so he could have a better life. Tyler, I said softly, I love you. You know that. But love can't just go one way. If you truly love me, you need to defend me too, especially when your wife disrespects me. Mom, she doesn't disrespect you. You're just too sensitive. He started pacing the living room, running a hand through his hair. He looked nervous, restless, like he was losing control of the conversation. Look, he said finally, I need you to give me the new keys. Olivia and I are going to keep living here while we save for our own place. I promise we'll talk to her, make sure she's more considerate. More considerate? I repeated. Your wife told me to move out of my own home, Tyler. Is that your idea of being considerate? She was angry. She didn't mean it. Oh, she meant it, I said sharply. And you stayed silent while she said it. That was the last straw for me, my own son standing by while his wife humiliated me. Tyler sat down again, his head in his hands. I could see the conflict on his face. Part of him knew I was right, but admitting it would mean facing his own mistakes. Okay, Mom, he said at last. I'll talk to Olivia. I'll tell her to apologize. But please give me the keys. We can't keep staying at other people's houses. No, Tyler, I said firmly. Apologies that come from pressure mean nothing. Olivia needs to realize on her own that she's treated me badly. And you need to decide if you're going to let her keep doing it. Until then, the locks stay as they are. So what? We just live on the street, he snapped. You're not on the street. You have a good job, you make good money. You can rent an apartment or stay in a hotel or go to her parents' place. You've got options. Mom, we don't have enough saved for a deposit. Everything we earn goes to bills. That's not my problem, Tyler. You're both married adults. You need to handle your own problems like adults. He stared at me, really stared, and for the first time I saw something new in his eyes. A mix of pain, disbelief, and maybe even fear. I think that's when he realized I'd changed. I wasn't the same mother who used to give in just to keep the peace. He stayed quiet for a long time, then asked, almost in a whisper, Are you really not going to give me the keys? I'm really not, I said gently. But listen to me, Tyler. The door to this house will always be open for you. Only you. When you decide your mother deserves respect. He stood up, walked toward the door, and turned to look at me one last time. Hey, Mom. If that's how it is, I respect your decision. But just know, you're destroying this family because of your pride. No, Tyler, I said, keeping my voice calm. Our family started breaking the day you let your wife disrespect me. I'm just trying to save what's left of my dignity. Then he left, no hug, no goodbye. I watched him through the window, walking to his car with his shoulders slumped, looking defeated. I knew he'd go back to Olivia, that she'd ask what happened, that he'd tell her, and that she'd be furious I hadn't caved. I stayed there at the window until the car disappeared down the street. My heart hurt, it truly did, but beneath the sadness I felt something else. Relief. For the first time in a long while, I'd said everything I needed to say without being interrupted, without being called dramatic or sensitive. On Monday morning I woke up early like always. Made my coffee. Read the newspaper. Watered my plants. The house was quiet. No shouting, no complaints, no sighs of irritation. Just peace. Around 10 my phone rang. It was Daniel. He said Tyler had called him, told him I'd kicked them out. Daniel asked if it was true and if I was okay. I told him everything. The months of disrespect, the shouting, the argument on Sunday. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Mom, you did the right thing. It's time Tyler learned that actions have consequences." He told me Tyler had asked him to talk to me to convince me to hand over the keys. But Daniel refused. "That's between you and him, Mom. I'm not taking sides." In that moment I felt proud of him. Even though Tyler was his big brother, Daniel understood that I wasn't wrong. Before hanging up he told me, "If you need anything, Mom, anything at all, I'm here." The rest of the week I didn't hear a word from Tyler. No calls, no texts, no visits. It was as if he'd vanished. Part of me worried, but deep down I knew he was fine. He was just angry because for once he didn't get his way. On Wednesday afternoon, I was outside watering the garden when my neighbor Mrs. Davis came over. She'd lived next door for 15 years and we'd always gotten along. She leaned on the fence and said, "Margaret, I haven't seen Tyler and Olivia around lately. Everything okay?" I told her briefly what had happened, not all the ugly details, just enough. She listened quietly, then looked at me and said something I didn't expect. "I'm so glad you finally set some boundaries with them, Margaret," Mrs. Davis told me over the fence. "That girl always struck me as arrogant." Her words surprised me. I hadn't realized she'd noticed Olivia's behavior. I asked what she'd seen. She said Olivia had yelled more than once at the young woman who helps me clean, talking to her like a personal servant. She also said there'd been a day when Olivia parked across Mrs. Davis's driveway, and when she politely asked her to move, Olivia snapped that she'd have to wait 5 minutes because she had more important things to do. Hearing that settled something heavy inside me. I wasn't exaggerating. Olivia wasn't just disrespectful with me, she treated everyone that way. The worst part was that Tyler was so blinded by her that he couldn't see who she really was. Friday night, I was watching TV when my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I answered and it was Tyler. His voice sounded different, thinner, tired, beaten down. "Mom, it's me. I'm calling from a coworker's phone." "Why aren't you using your cell?" I asked. "It got shut off," he said. "I don't have the money to turn it back on yet." That hurt to hear. Tyler had always been careful with money, always planned ahead. If he couldn't pay his phone bill, things must have been rough. "How have you been?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Bad, Mom. Really bad. We've been in a cheap hotel all week and we're out of money. Olivia had to borrow from her sister just so we could eat the last few days." "Why not look for an apartment?" I said. "We did," he sighed. "Every place wants 3 months deposit plus first month up front. It's like $2,500 we don't have." He went quiet. I could hear him breathing like he used to when he was a little boy on the edge of tears. "Mom, I need a favor. Could you loan us the deposit? I promise we'll pay you back in 6 months. Tyler, you know I don't have that kind of savings. The $3,000 I had went to your wedding, remember? You could take out a bank loan. Use the house as collateral. Please, Mom. We're desperate." "No, Tyler," I said softly but firm. "I'm not going into debt to fix a problem you two created. If you'd respected me, you'd still be living here rent-free. You chose otherwise." Silence stretched. When he spoke again, his tone had hardened. "Really, Mom? You're going to let your son end up on the street because of your pride?" "You're not ending up on the street," I said. "You have a job. You have hands. Rent a cheaper room. Find a place with a smaller deposit. Ask your boss for an advance. You have options. None of that is as easy as you forgiving me and giving me the keys back." "Exactly," I said. "None of it is easy. Life isn't always easy, Tyler. I worked 30 years to build this home. When your father died, I kept going. No one swooped in to solve my problems." He exhaled long and heavy. I could hear the frustration through the phone. "Hey, Mom. I get it. But you should know Olivia's really hurt. She says you never accepted her, that you treated her badly from day one." "I welcomed that woman into my house with open arms," I said. "I tried to make her comfortable. If she feels rejected, it's because her own conscience is telling her how she treated me." "That's not true. Olivia's always been respectful." "Respectful?" I asked. "Telling me to move out of my own home, is that respectful?" She was angry when she said that. "People say things they don't mean." I get angry too, I said quietly. But I don't forget my manners in someone else's home, especially not my own. He didn't answer. He knew I was right, but he wouldn't say it. His loyalty to Olivia kept him from seeing straight. Well, Mom, I have to go, he said. I just wanted you to know how we're doing. Before you hang up, I said, listen to me. This door will always be open for you, Tyler. You're my son and I love you. But I won't allow anyone to disrespect me here, not even your wife. If Olivia apologizes, truly apologizes, if she admits what she did and says the words with sincerity, then we can talk. But it has to be real, not just a trick to get the keys. He went quiet, then said he'd talk to her, that he'd try to convince her to apologize. We hung up without goodbyes, the same way we had on Sunday. I didn't sleep well that night. Part of me ached knowing he was struggling. The other part knew he needed to learn that choices carry consequences, and I couldn't keep rescuing him while he let me be disrespected. Saturday morning, I called Daniel to tell him about Tyler's call. He said Tyler had asked him for money too and he'd refused, not out of stinginess, but because bailing them out would only keep the lesson from landing. Sometimes you have to let people hit bottom before they reflect. Then Daniel told me he'd dug a little into Olivia's past. Out of curiosity, he'd spoken with a couple of acquaintances from her company. They said she had a reputation for being difficult, trouble with coworkers, arrogance, drama. Another person told him Olivia had been married before for less than 2 years, and that there'd been serious issues with her first husband's family. Accusations that she was materialistic and manipulative. That worried me. If she'd had the same problems before, then what I was living through wasn't random. It was a pattern. On Sunday afternoon, I was reading in the garden when someone knocked. I peeked through the window and saw a well-dressed young woman, maybe 30, in an elegant green dress, blonde hair, expensive sunglasses. I opened the door. She slipped off her glasses and gave me a smile that felt fake from the first second. Are you Mrs. Margaret Tyler's mom? Yes, I said. How can I help you? Nice to meet you, ma'am. I'm Ashley, Olivia's sister. Could we talk for a moment? I let her in, though my gut warned me this visit wouldn't be pleasant. A woman named Laura Bennett showed up at my door one Sunday afternoon. She looked polished and confident, the kind of person used to getting her way. Mrs. Grant, she said, smiling thinly, I'm Laura, Madison's sister. I'd like to talk about the situation with my sister and your son. I invited her in, though I could already tell this wouldn't be a pleasant visit. Laura looked around my living room like she was inspecting a charity case. I know it's difficult when new people join a family, she began, but Madison is a good woman. He loves Ryan. It's not fair that you're punishing them like this. I'm not punishing anyone, I said calmly. I've simply decided that only people who respect me can live in my home. Her polite mask slipped. They're broke, she said sharply. Living in cheap motels. Ryan's lost weight. He's depressed. That's unfortunate, I replied, but they're married adults. Their finances are their responsibility. She crossed her arms. My sister says you're controlling, that you can't accept your son's marriage, that you treat her like a child. I took a slow breath. Your sister has rewritten the story. For 8 months I treated her like a daughter and she repaid me with arrogance. Laura sighed. Mrs. Grant, why destroy your relationship with Ryan over a misunderstanding? It's not a misunderstanding, I said quietly. Your sister disrespected me in my own home. My son yelled at me for defending myself. She started pacing, clearly frustrated. What will it take for you to forgive her? For her to kneel and beg? All I want is honesty, an apology that means something. Not excuses. Laura gave a sarcastic laugh. Families don't work like they used to. Daughters-in-law don't have to obey their mother-in-law. I never asked for obedience, I said. Just respect. Her tone softened but her eyes didn't. You're getting older, Mrs. Grant. Wouldn't you rather have your son close than end up alone? I'd rather be alone and at peace, I said, than surrounded by people who humiliate me. That seemed to surprise her. I told her I wasn't lonely. I had my younger son, my friends, my neighbors. I didn't need company that came with cruelty. Laura's patience finally snapped. My sister's crying every day. Ryan's miserable. If you see him on the street someday, I hope your pride keeps you warm at night. Her words stung, but I didn't flinch. My son won't end up on the street. He's capable, just misguided. And I won't let anyone manipulate me into surrendering my dignity. Laura stormed out, slamming the door. Through the window I saw her on the phone, no doubt telling Madison she'd failed to break me. That evening I felt a heavy sadness. Laura's visit had stirred everything up again, confirming that Madison had twisted the story to make herself the victim, and that Ryan truly was suffering. But I knew if I gave in now, nothing would change. Madison would feel triumphant and I'd lose my dignity for good. I called Eric, my younger son, and told him what Laura had said, including the threat about Ryan ending up on the street. "Mom," he said, "that woman's manipulating you. Ryan's not going to die from renting a room. Let him learn." I knew he was right, but guilt still tugged at me. The next morning I got a call from Ryan's office. A young woman asked if I knew where he was. He hadn't shown up for work. My stomach dropped. Ryan was never irresponsible. I tried his cell but no answer. I called Eric. Nothing. Hours later Ryan finally called. His voice was hoarse, unsteady. "Mom, it's me. I didn't go to work. Madison and I had a huge fight." He sounded like he'd been drinking. "Laura told her about yesterday. Madison says you humiliated her. She says she'll never apologize now, that if I really love her I should cut you off." "Ryan," I said gently, "you don't have to choose between us. You just need to do what's right." "But Mom," he whispered, "I'm lost. If I pick her I lose you. If I pick you she'll leave." My heart broke hearing him cry, but I stayed calm. "Son, all I'm asking for is respect. If she apologizes sincerely we can all move forward." He hesitated. "She says you never accepted her, that she didn't do anything wrong." "Ryan, have you ever seen me be rude to anyone in my home?" "No, Mom," he said quietly. "So why would I treat her differently?" He was silent again, his breathing shaky. "You're right. I'll talk to her. I just need to fix this. Start by going back to work," I told him. "And stop drinking. That won't solve anything." He promised he would. For the first time in weeks I felt a flicker of hope. He'd begun to doubt Madison's story. The next afternoon my phone rang again. It was her. "Mrs. Grant, it's Madison," she said, her tone softer than usual. "Ethan told me you'd forgive me if I apologized. I wanted to know exactly what you need to hear." I took a breath. "I need you to admit what you did, specifically." There was a pause, then she said, "I was wrong to tell you to leave your own home. That was disrespectful. And I shouldn't have moved your things without asking. I should have respected that it's your house." Her words sounded right, but her voice lacked heart. I could tell she was saying what Ryan wanted her to say, not what she truly felt. When Madison called again, her voice was soft, almost shaky. "Mrs. Parker, I want to make things right," she said. I asked why the sudden change of heart. "Because Noah isn't doing well," she admitted. "He's not sleeping, barely eating, he's drinking too much. I'm scared for him." I realized then she wasn't apologizing out of remorse but desperation. "Madison," I told her, "a real apology comes from the heart, not from fear. You can't say sorry just to fix your life." "I know," she said quietly. "I was wrong. I disrespected you. I made things harder for Noah and you both." "Do you even love my son?" I asked. "Of course," she said, almost whispering. "But I was jealous. He talks about you with such love and admiration. I felt I'd never be that important to him." That was the first time she'd shown any real honesty. "Madison," I said gently, "a wife's love and a mother's love aren't in competition. I never tried to take him from you, only asked for respect." She exhaled shakily. "I understand that now. I want to make things right. Please tell me what to do." I told her words wouldn't be enough. She needed to come in person and talk face to face without Noah. She agreed to come that afternoon. When she arrived, she looked nothing like the proud woman who'd once lived here. No makeup, eyes tired, hands trembling around a bouquet of flowers. "I brought these for you," she said softly. We sat in the living room and I asked, "Does Noah know you came?" "No, ma'am. I wanted to come alone, to be honest." For the first time she looked me in the eyes. "I grew up in a family where trust didn't exist," she confessed. "My parents split when I was little and my mother taught me that people only hurt you. When Noah talked about you with so much love, I assumed you'd try to control him. So I came into your home defensive, ready for a fight." "And what did you find?" I asked. "A kind woman who treated me well, and I couldn't believe it." I thought you were pretending. Her voice cracked. I attacked first because I was afraid you'd attack me. I was wrong. I see it now. For the first time she looked truly remorseful. Noah misses you, she said. He misses this house, watching TV with you, talking after work. And I know if he loses you because of me, one day he'll blame me. I don't want that. Are you really sorry for how you treated me? I asked. Yes, Mrs. Parker. I was selfish and rude. I had no right to ask you to leave your home. Please, give me a second chance. Second chances are earned, not given, I said. If you return, how will I know things will be different? I'll respect your rules. I'll help around the house. I'll ask before moving anything. And if we ever disagree, I'll talk, not shout. No more dragging Noah into our problems. I studied her face. She seemed sincere, but I'd learned to be cautious. If it doesn't work out, I asked, will you be willing to move out peacefully? Yes, she said. If I can't live here with respect, then the problem is me. And I'll make sure Noah understands that. When Madison came that afternoon, she knelt in front of me and took my hands. Mrs. Parker, she said through tears, please forgive me for being disrespectful, for hurting you, for making this house feel cold. I promise to be better, to be the daughter you never had. Her sincerity caught me off guard. For the first time I saw no arrogance, only remorse. I lifted her up and hugged her. All right, Madison, I whispered. I'll give you a second chance, but only one. If it happens again, that's it. She nodded quickly, wiping her face. I understand. I won't let you down. Could we come back tonight? Noah's been so depressed. You can, I said. But first he and I need to talk. We all need to start fresh with rules. When they arrived an hour later, I barely recognized my son. He'd lost weight, his face pale and tired, but when he saw me, his eyes filled with light. Mom, he whispered and fell into my arms. I held him tight, both of us crying like we hadn't in years. Madison stood in the doorway watching. When I invited her in, she sat quietly, hands clasped, humble in a way I'd never seen before. I love you both, I began. Noah, you're my son. Nothing will change that. And Madison, you're part of this family now. Noah took my hand. Mom, I'm so sorry for yelling at you, for disrespecting you in your own home. I swear it'll never happen again. Madison cleared her throat. Mrs. Parker, I want to repeat what I told you earlier. I treated you terribly. You never mistreated me. I was afraid, defensive, and wrong. Noah looked at her in disbelief. Why? He asked softly. Because I was scared you'd choose your mother over me, she said, crying. But your mom only ever wanted respect. He hugged her tightly, and for the first time I truly believed healing was possible. Now, I said gently, we're setting some rules. Rule 1. This is my house. My decisions are final. Rule 2. Any changes, furniture, decorations, anything, are discussed first. Rule 3. If there's a problem, we talk calmly. No yelling, no taking sides. Rule 4. Noah, you never raise your voice to defend anyone against me again. Rule 5. We all do our part to make this a happy home. They both agreed. Madison even smiled a little through her tears. But remember, I added, this is the last chance. If things fall apart again, you'll move out peacefully. No more fighting. Noah nodded. I understand, Mom. I'm 70 years old, I said quietly. I just want peace in my home. I just want to live the rest of my life in peace, I told them, surrounded by people who love and respect me. Madison stood and placed her hand on my shoulder. Mrs. Parker, you have my word. I'll prove every day that I deserve to be part of this family. I smiled. I trust you. When the three of us hugged, it felt like the first real moment of unity in almost a year. Noah, I said softly, go get your things. It's time to come home. That night we cooked dinner together for the first time in months. Madison shared stories about her rough childhood and the fears that had shaped her. I listened. Understanding didn't erase the past, but it helped me see her more clearly. Noah looked lighter, laughing again, his eyes no longer burdened. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you've been through something like this, share your story in the comments.